In this video, I talk about building a winning go-to-market plan for your SaaS product. I'm a serial entrepreneur with multiple exits, author of 3 books about building startups, and an investor in more than 100 companies. I've always thought the term go-to-market feels just a bit pretentious because I thought it just means launching your product into the market. But what I've learned and what I'm going to talk about in this video is that there are a lot of components to a go-to-market strategy. It's not just about launching, which is usually just your marketing. It's 5 things, and 5 things in this order: target customer, positioning, pricing, marketing, and then your sales strategy. And frankly, a go-to-market plan can include more than this. If you're a Fortune 500 company bringing a product to market, a go-to-market plan can be massive. But for an entrepreneur like yourself, these 5 key components are the ones that you need to think about and define before you launch your product. And let's be honest, many of these will be guesses or hypotheses because you just don't know the space well enough until you've launched and talked to customers. And you're going to have an initial hypothesis of what each of these things should be, and then you're going to have to move and pivot and adjust as you have contact with customers. So let's talk about the first piece, and this is your target customer. The way I would start to dive into this is to research the competitive landscape. I would look to see if there are customer segments that are not being served or not being served well. So for example, the founder of Builder Prime noticed that home improvement contractors were not being well served by traditional CRM software. And so Jonathan, the founder of Builder Prime, who is a company that I've invested in through my accelerator TinySeed, he built one. And the reason is because there was a customer segment that was not being served or not being served very well. Sometimes all customer segments are being served relatively well, and you have to figure out a different angle. And that's where positioning comes in. Is there a corner of the market where you could position your product, carve out a niche? For example, project management software has existed for years, and project management SaaS is a relatively crowded space. But the founders of Gather, which is at gatherit.co, they realized that traditional project management software was not serving interior designers very well. And so they carved out that niche and they positioned themselves as being the go-to SaaS for interior designers and architects. And when you're just starting out, you don't know these things for sure. You're just trying to figure out, is there a customer segment that we think, that we have a hypothesis is not being served well? And is there a corner of the market where we could position ourselves? And then you go from there. But those 2 things then inform how you can price, how you can market, and how you can sell this product. So let's look at part 3 of our go-to-market strategy, which is pricing. Does your space have large incumbents which have used their brands to raise prices and go up market, leaving a large space at the bottom of the market for you to enter? For example, Intercom is a beloved piece of software, but they have definitely raised their prices frequently. And I see opportunity for someone to come in and compete with Intercom as a less expensive, but still mostly fully featured version of Intercom. My last SaaS company that I sold did this in marketing automation. There were a bunch of premium providers. They were $400 to $4,000 a month and up. And there was no one who was selling marketing automation for less than that. And so we came in and we positioned ourselves as a lighter weight version of marketing automation, but we were able to underprice the competitors in a way that allowed us to build a brand. And by the time we were doing a few $1 million in revenue, we had a pretty solid brand established. And then we had pricing power and we could start raising our prices. Now, I would never give the advice to go in and compete on price, try to be the low cost provider, because that is going to tend to bring customers that you don't want. They're going to churn, they're going to be price sensitive, they're going to be asking for discounts. But in a space where there are really expensive players that are, let's say, bulky, hard to use, maybe not well liked, there is opportunity for you to position yourself in a way that can be advantageous to you as you go to market. The 4th element of your go-to-market strategy, which is informed by the prior 3, are the marketing tactics you can use. So are there any marketing tactics where you have expertise or where your competitors are weak? So one example of this is Signwell, which is electronic signature. And Signwell competes with all the massive DocuSigns and HelloSigns of the world. But the founder of that, Ruben, is amazing at SEO. And so he has used SEO as a way to gain traction in that space. If you don't have any expertise, then you're going to want to start looking at your competitors and spy on what they're doing with their ad strategy, with their content strategy, and figure out, is there somewhere where I feel like I can beat them? And in fact, your pricing informs how you can market, because you can't spend a ton of money on marketing if you don't have, higher prices, people willing to pay higher prices for your software. And the 5th piece of your go-to-market strategy is your sales strategy. So are existing players only using enterprise sales tactics to sell? And can you make your product mostly self-serve? Or vice versa? If everyone's doing self-serve and they're on the lower end of the market, can you go in and do a more high-touch sales process where you have a higher price point, but companies who really want that white glove service will come to you? We watched Bounce Exchange do this. They gained traction several years ago now, 5-6 years ago. They were charging 100 times more than their competitors. These are competitors like Opt-in Monster and Sumo.com. They were charging way more than them by providing a managed split testing service over their email opt-in widget. And that allowed them to have some type of differentiation, right? It allowed them to have that higher price point, allowed them to position themselves as the premium offering, and then it allowed their sales strategy to be a high-touch enterprise process. I don't want to imply that you always have to zig when others are zagging, but if you enter a market with the same pricing, positioning, sales and marketing strategies as major incumbents with stronger brands and bigger budgets, you are creating a major uphill battle for yourself because they have more money and they have more experience. So it's better to find some kind of vulnerability or some area that's being missed in the space. It's that missing scale on the dragon's belly, if you will. Hobbit reference? Anyone? So let's say you think you know your best target customer, you have an idea about your positioning, your pricing, how you're going to market and sell it. So let's look a little deeper at marketing because that's such a big piece of going to market. So many things hinge on your ability to let people know that your product exists. Even if you get everything else 100% correct, if you drop the ball on marketing and you do not generate demand, you will fail. So as you go to market and you're evaluating marketing approaches, I would be looking for advantages that you have. Do you have an existing audience? If you have one, great. If you don't, unless it's a strength of yours to build audiences, I wouldn't do it in SaaS. Do you have a great network? Whether you have one or not, build one. There are communities like MicroConf and Indie Hackers and Dynamite Circle where you can go to find other like-minded entrepreneurs and to build your network as you emerge into this space, as you go to market, as you launch, such that the next time you do launch a product, you have a better network because your network not only gives you advice, but you can do joint venture partnerships. You can have founder friends who are helping you promote your product and are helping you spread the word. And a third potential advantage is having a despised competitor that is a leader in the space. This may not seem like an advantage, but it's amazing to have someone who has gone ahead of you. They've already taken the arrows in the back. They've made the mistakes both in their product and in their marketing, and they've got some things refined. And if you look at them and you realize, well, the real downfall for them is their customer service sucks, or no one likes their sales process, or they're overpriced, or their product is old. It's 15 years old. It hasn't been revamped. Well, you know that if you build an amazing product with amazing UX, maybe you underprice them a bit and you do a sales process that people enjoy and you use most of the same marketing approaches, you're probably going to gain some traction. So having a large competitor that people dislike that is doing some things right and some things wrong, in my opinion, is better than not having a competitor at all because then it's pure experimentation on your end. And in terms of startup marketing, I've talked about it in several other videos on this channel about launching, but something I say so often is start marketing before you start coding. Get a landing page up, start talking about your product. You want to build that email launch list because you want the first day that you launch to be an amazing day of interest, not just on Product Hunt or Hacker News or Reddit, but you're going to want hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of people on an email launch list in order to have that amazing launch day that you imagine. Because getting lucky and playing the Hacker News, the Product Hunt, the Reddit lottery, that's not a way to have a proven launch or a way to have something that's probably going to work. Having that email list of people who are super interested in hearing what your product does, in hearing when it launches, is an amazing way to have that incredible first launch day. If you want to hear how I built my email list for my most recent SaaS product, look for the video, How to Validate Your Idea and Launch to $7,000 in Recurring Revenue. You can look for it on our YouTube channel. And as you launch to the world, you're going to be scratching and clawing to get those early customers. I've already mentioned Product Hunt, Hacker News, and Reddit, but there are things like Q&A sites like Quora and Stack Exchange. These don't scale, but in the early days, they can be worth it depending on your price point to get folks in and get the buzz and start building brand. You can do a podcast or a YouTube tour. You can hang out where your customers hang out. These are places like Facebook groups, Slack groups, forums. And then you start looking at blocking and tackling. What are the 5 most common B2B SaaS marketing approaches? It's content, SEO, cold outreach, pay-per-click, and partnerships and integrations. And you look at those and you think about what is your price point, how much money can you commit to acquiring a customer, and which of these are going to work in your space. And I have an entire video dedicated to that topic that I want to tell you about in just a second. But before I do, I wanted to let you know there is a companion podcast to this YouTube channel. It's called Startups for the Rest of Us. And on that show, every week for about 30 minutes, I talk about things like this, about launching, about marketing, about building SaaS, mostly bootstrapping SaaS. And I've been doing it for more than 10 years. We have more than 600 episodes. And so check out Startups for the Rest of Us on any place that podcasts are available, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Downcast, Overcast. So if you want to go deeper into the marketing side of this, I know I've talked a lot about go-to-market, which is the full package, but if you want to know about building a flywheel, this is a process I cover in detail in the video on this channel titled How to Get Your First 100 Customers for Your SaaS Product. So I hope you enjoyed the video today about building a winning go-to-market plan. I'll see you in the next video.